Hi, my name's Tom Shue, and today we're going to look at onOne's Perfect Effects 4. If we click over here and click Edit in Lightroom, it's going to launch this plugin. It's going to ask us, do we do it to our original or copy? We'll do it to a copy, and it's going to launch this plugin, and this plugin's pretty neat. What it does is it allows you to take creative freedom on your photograph in a layer situation, just like you would in Photoshop, without ever actually having to go into Photoshop or learn that program. Okay, if you look here, there's a bunch of different views. You can see how you want to look at your presets. If you come over here and say we want to do a correction for maybe glow, for example, you can look at it as a list view, as a side by side, or one row, and say we wanted to apply something pretty dramatic. Say something like this. It will create a layer and it will create a mask. Now this mask is how you erase or apply the effect. You can use the brush tool to erase things. If you use a bracket key up, you can resize your brush. If you notice in the middle of that brush there's a minus sign. If you hold down the Alt key, and that's the Option key on a Mac, you can add the plus sign. So let's just remove this effect from the image on the sky. Another way you can manipulate this mask over here, is to use this tool. It's called a bug. So you click on the screen where you want this to be applied, and you can actually rotate it around. It gives you a grid to represent right where that mask is going to be. So there's no guesswork. Okay, once you got it where you want it, then you can control the opacity and the feathering from these controls. It works pretty nice. So say we got our image the way we want. Okay, we can click Add, and we can add something else to the image. Say we wanted to go to Textures, for example. Here's one called Textures. And we could create a texture, maybe this one here. We can add that texture. And we could subtract it with our brush tool, or we can just take the effect and back it off. Let's just hide that for a second. We're going to add a new layer, because there's some other ways you can handle things. Down here in this Effects option, if you click on Effects and go to Texturizer, what it will do is apply effect from these drop-down menus. So say, for example, we go to one that says Natural, and there's a bunch of different options for different sets of clouds. So maybe that's a scattered cloud. We can apply the strength of those clouds, and we can scale them. So we can make them fit a larger picture or make them fit a smaller picture. So once we have them the way we want, we can rotate them and move them to the left and to the right. But now we'd come in with our bug tool, and on that layer selected with the clouds, Texturizer clouds, we select our image, and then we'll manipulate our mask to hide it from the foreground element. Okay, so we get it exactly the way we want. Drop this down, and then we can pull the feather off from the way we want it to be feathered into the sky, and then the opacity of the actual effect on the foreground element. It's a really neat program that's intuitive in such a way that you don't have to know all of these fancy controls inside of Photoshop. What they've done is they've created a huge library of effects for you, and then they've given you a few tools to control all those effects via a mask. Now there's other ways you can manipulate this. For example, you can choose under your options, you can do blending options. So instead of just all of your normal blending modes, you can apply the effect to everything in the image, or just the highlights, or just the shadows, or the reds, or the greens, or the blues. This is something that you have a hard time doing inside Photoshop, and you can protect your highlights so it doesn't apply to them, or protect your shadows. There's just a lot of ways to work with this, so it's pretty in-depth. And with the amount of filters in the library, for example, if we wanted to put, say, a border on our image, we click Add a New Layer. We'll come over here and we'll look for borders. Let's hide the textures, and we'll come up here to borders, and they've got a huge library of borders, like old film borders and painted borders, like for example this one, and it applies it automatically to your image. If we don't like that one, we want to put a film border on, maybe we'll check out this border. Looks like old 120 film. So that's it. I want to thank you all for taking time to visit my blog today, and until next time, we'll see you soon.